Okay, welcome to Angels Water's live video on what is in your water and what do you want to take out. I'm Andrew Wilson. Today I'm actually in Arizona and not in our offices in Chicago, but wanted to do this video and not miss the first Saturday of every month. And so today's topic is what is in your water, Chicago, and how do you want to get it out? And to begin with, there's three types of customers in the Chicagoland area that we're concerned about. There's people who get their water from Lake Michigan. That'd be people that live pretty close to Lake Michigan. That would be the suburbs of Chicago, like Palatine, Arlington Heights, going down to Oak Brook and all that. They get their water from Lake Michigan. Obviously, of course, downtown Chicago gets their water from Lake Michigan. And then you have customers who live in the suburbs and they get their water from wells. The cities themselves, like Barrington, Algonquin, St. Charles, they have wells drilled into the earth and they draw the water up and out of the earth and they add chlorine to it and they send it off to their customers' homes or the residents' homes. And that'd be the second type of customer. So they get city water provided by wells. And then the third type of customer in the Chicagoland area is people who live a little further on this in the suburbs who live on their own private well. Prospect Heights, Barrington Hills, some parts of Palatine, Algonquin, McHenry, St. Charles, going southwest. So when we get on more rural areas, usually they don't have sidewalks or fire hydrants. Those people are on their private well. So again, three different types of customers that have three different types of things that are in their water. And so we're going to sort of address each one of them today. Number one, Lake Michigan water. So my job as a water educator is to sit down with customers and explain to them what is in your water and then what is the right filter to help get that out. And again, my overall goal in teaching people is the reason why we want to know all this is because we are nothing but one big filter. Your body is made up of trillions of cells, and the cells are comprised of three things, right? The food you eat, the water you consume, and then they produce electricity. So when we take a look at these cells and that what makes you work, my number one concern is what kind of water are we ingesting that makes up our cells? So if we go down to your water and we start with Lake Michigan, your water is obviously one big, huge hole in the ground that has filled up with water. And the city of Chicago grabs that water. They add chlorine to it. Remember, they have a water treatment plant, not a water filtration plant. So all they do is they draw that Lake Michigan water in, they add chlorine, and then they send it out to everybody's home. So in that water, the number one contaminant that has been found in a Chicago water that we want to be able to get out is hexylvalent chromium 6. So that is a byproduct of industry, mainly BP, Amoco, and some other major manufacturers. They actually buy permits to be able to dump their waste into Lake Michigan. And that is the number one contaminant that I would be concerned about getting out of your water. The number two contaminant that we have in the water would be radium-228 and 226. This is also in the Chicagoland suburbs water with well water. And that's basically because there's radium underneath the earth, and as it's trying to get back up into the atmosphere, it percolates through the water, through Lake Michigan. So it attaches itself to the water molecule, and as a result, there are levels of radium-228 and 226 that's in Chicago water. In the third contaminant, the top three, the third one that I would want to be able to get out of, consulting with people would be mercury. They tell you if you notice, there are no fisheries along the lakeshore. There's no open fish markets, yet we have this gigantic, beautiful lake. Well, it's riddled with fish that actually have high levels of mercury in their meat. So many of the fish, almost all the fish, you're limited to how much fish you can eat because the mercury levels are so high. The reason why mercury is so high in our water is because we have coal-fired power plants that surround Lake Michigan that produce electricity, and their byproduct is mercury. So it's really unfortunate, but that is something else that I'd like to try to talk to customers about and say, that's something that I would want to get out of my water, especially since the government is sort of bipolar here. They say, you know, drink the water, it's safe, but yet don't eat all the fish because they're not safe. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I would want a system that takes mercury out. Lastly, there are byproducts from adding chlorine to the water. So there's a variety of byproducts that are in the water that we want to get out. They range from bromodichloromethylene to trihaloethic acids. So when the cities add chlorine to the water to make it safe for us to drink, there is a byproduct that these contaminants that actually can cause cancer over long-term exposure. So again, when you take a look at Lake Michigan water as an example, if there's something like coliform in the water, that's human waste or the waste of animal waste that gets into Lake Michigan, which happens all the time. They need to add chlorine to the water to sanitize it, because if they don't, we will get sick immediately. So the elderly or infants or people with immune deficient disorders, sort of like cancer or some health concerns, if they were to drink water that has coliform in it or E. coli in it, they could possibly die immediately. So their number one goal is to make the waters safe for you to drink, and that where it wouldn't cause someone to violently die from drinking it right away, or us to get violently ill right away, which is what happened in the late 1800s. Chicago was the source of a case where sewage backed up into Lake Michigan. They drew that water with sewage back in, and unfortunately, a lot of people died from Lake Michigan from the water. This also happened back, I think, in the 80s or early 90s with Milwaukee. Very similar situation. We had a lot of rain, and the sewage overflowed and went back into Lake Michigan, and Milwaukee drew that water in and made a lot of the people sick there. So they have to accurately dose the chlorine in the water, and when they do so, that chlorine creates byproducts, and those byproducts are something else that you'd want to be able to get out of the water. So in summary, on Lake Michigan water, again, if you have water provided to you by Lake Michigan, the things that we're most concerned in wanting to get out is going to be hexavalent chromium-6, mercury. We also have byproducts of the chlorine, and and there's a variety of names for them: bromodichloromethylene, trihaloethic acids. So we want to be able to get those out, and also we want to get radium-228 and 226 out. So again, we want to get these things out because short term, they're not going to cause you many problems, but they become part of your cells. And so as a water consultant, my job is to explain to customers what's in their water and then ask them simply, what would you like out? You know, I want to define what's in the water, tell you what they can cause, usually cancer, and would you like to get them out? I do want to address lead, because lead is a big issue in Chicago. Yes, lead is another thing that we always want to be able to get out of water. The city doesn't report that they have high levels of it, but there are high levels of lead in the water if you test your own water, because the city is not testing the water between the street and your home. And we use lead services in Chicagoland all the way up till 1984 or 83, where most major cities stopped using lead service pipes to bring water into people's homes back in the 50s. So the major cities like LA, New York, they stopped using lead service, but we use them for God knows what reason all the way up into the 80s. So you would also want to have a filter system that would take out lead just in case that gets in your water. So again, that's what our number one concern is for Lake Michigan water, is those contaminants. We want to find a certified filter system to get that out. Now, if you live out in the suburbs and the city has a well and draws the water up and puts it in the big water towers that are in the area, and then they send that out to your house, your number one concern with the water out there is going to be radiological contaminants. So that's, again, radium-228 and 226. Almost every single city in the Chicagoland area has radium-228 and 226 in their water. So we want to definitely get a system that is certified to remove radium out, because long-term exposure to radium can cause cancer. Now, I want to stress that the EPA will tell you, they set their standards back in 1972, and they'll tell you that the water in most Chicagoland area falls below the EPA standards. But again, they set those standards in 1972. And as a water consultant, I like to explain to people that this is in your water. And although the EPA might tell you that it's safe to drink, the EPA is also the same organization that told you that, hexavalent chromium-6 is converted to hexavalent chromium-3 in your water, which is good to the body. So here's a well-known organization that's supposed to be looking out for our health that tells us that hexavalent chromium-6 actually is good for our body. And by the way, they have yet, even though they know that it's toxic from the great stories or great examples of what's gone on in California with the Aaron Brockridge story, they still have not set a standard for which all cities must meet with hexavalent chromium-6. So it's kind of staggering to us. So since they are unwilling to update their standards for hexavalent chromium-6, it's also likely that they are not updating their standards for some of these other contaminants. So from my perspective, I want to take a look at it and I want to say, listen, it's in your water. The EPA says that it falls below the standard that they have set for, by the way, for a man that weighs 180 pounds. And so they think that it's safe for you. I look at contaminants and say, why would you want any of them in the water? I mean, if there's something in your water, it's logical that you want it out. Why would you want that to become part of your cellular structure? Again, your body is 60 to 70% water. Your brain is 90% water. If you're consuming this water that has any of these contaminants, why would you want it out? So anyhow, getting back to city water provided by your suburbs that are on well water, you have to take a look at radium-228 and 226. And then we get into the same contaminants by adding chlorine to the water. That's the tetrachloroethic acid, bromodichloromethylene. So there's a lot of these contaminants that are as a result of adding chlorine to the water that we want to be able to get out. Thirdly is a lot of these cities, a lot of the suburbs that have well water also have lead in their pipes. So remember, when they transport the pipes or water through the pipes, they all the way up until the 80s, they used a lead solder to solder some of these pipes together. And you also will have lead service coming from the city, which is underneath the water main that the city has, usually is under the streets. And you'll have possibly a flexible lead line that comes into your home. So we typically want to suggest to people to get a lead filter or a filter that does remove lead as well, just to add as extra precaution. So that's Lake Michigan, or that's well water provided by cities in the suburbs. That was the second type of client or customer that we deal with in the Chicagoland area. The third type of customer we deal with in the Chicagoland area is people who have their private well. Now, they don't have, the city's not, there's no city that's mandated to come by and test their water like there is on Lake Michigan water or city water that's provided by wells. Again, those are required by the EPA to be tested on a very regular basis to see what's in the water. When you have your own private well, it's like the Wild West. The government just says it's up to you. You know, if the water's safe or not, that's totally in your hands. You own the water. You are the water authority. Now, when you go to buy a house, when you transact it from one homeowner to another, the Illinois Department of Public Health requires that there's one test to be done on coliform nitrates. So it's similar to that same story that I said about Lake Michigan water and how the city of Chicago had unfortunately killed many people in the late 1800s by not treating their water with chlorine correctly. Well water, you can get coliform nitrates in your water that could make you violently sick. So when there's this transaction that takes place, there's a required test to test the well water. Now, it's only doing coliform nitrates, nothing that could cause cancer. They're not looking into radium. They're not looking into any of the other contaminants like lead or, well, sometimes there's going to be a lead test, but they're not looking into pesticides and herbicides. So we like to educate people what the EPA suggests, which is private well owners should test their water once a year just to see what's in their water. Now, as we've recommended that to our clients, the number one thing that shows up in water is, of course, coliform nitrates, and then pesticides and herbicides, because obviously this used to be farm fields. So as a result, the farm fields that we'd put fertilizer on the grass or on the fields, and then it would percolate down into the aquifer, and then they themselves, the private well owners are drawing that water up. So it's very, very important that when you're on a private well that you do your own water testing. And you do that on a regular basis. The EPA suggests at least once a year for the coliform nitrates test, every couple of years to do a much more thorough test, which is about, something like about 40 different contaminants that could be possibly in well water. And again, these are things that are fertilizers, runoff from industry, natural occurring contaminants like arsenic that could be in the water. So those things you need to test for on a regular basis. And if your water then has any of those, then of course we would want to highlight a filter that takes those out. So again, in summary, I want to go over, there's 3 different types of clients or water supplies in the Chicagoland area. First, there's Lake Michigan water. Lake Michigan water is obviously drawing the water from the lake and adding chlorine to it and then sending it to people's homes. And again, our top concerns or our top things that we know that are in the water there is going to be hexavalent chromium-6, mercury, lead, radium-228 and 226, and then byproducts from adding chlorine to the water. So that's number 1 for Lake Michigan water. That's the top things that are wrong with Lake Michigan water. When you go out a little bit further in the suburbs and your city has a big well that draws the water up and they add chlorine to it, we're looking at radium-228 and 226, which is the number 1 concern. By the way, there have been many cities like St. Charles and Lake Zurich that had lots and lots of violations with the EPA on radium-228 and 226 in the water because we have high levels of radium in our water. There's, along with radium, there's barium in a lot of city water supplies. So we want to usually take a look at the EWG website, which highlights what these contaminants are so that you can make sure you know exactly what you need to take out. Again, on well water provided by your cities, we have contaminants or there's carcinogens that are in the water that are as a result of adding chlorine to the water. Again, those are usually trihaloethic acids, bromodichloromethylene, that's another top one. So those are some of the top things that are in well water. And then if you have a private well, it's hard for us to tell, but we know that at least 10 to 15% of wells have coliform and nitrates in well water people are on their own private well. The EPA and I and the Department of Health strongly recommend that you do a water test at least once a year to start to see what's in your water. Again, if any one of the 3 sources of water here, if you have any of these contaminants and you want to get them out, we strongly recommend that you talk to your water professional about getting an NSF certified product to get it out. One of the things I'd like to highlight to people is that, there's a lot of products on the market. You can go on Google and find 1,000 things, and you can hope that they all make your water more healthy. Over the years, in selling and servicing water equipment, we can basically tell you that the best thing that you can possibly do is find a product that is NSF certified for removing the specific contaminant that's in your water. So again, the goal is find out what's in your water, then apply a filter that's NSF certified to take that out, and then make sure you maintain that filter by changing it on a regular basis. When you do that, you are then making the water as healthy as possible for you and your family. And again, at Angel Water, our number 1 goal is to make you, your family, and your home more healthy. And I hope today's video will help you guys all do that. Again, look at what's in your water. Usually we use the EWG website to be able to actually help us determine what is in your water if you're on city water, or do a water test if you have your own private well, and then apply the right filter that's NSF certified and preferably made in America. We found that a lot of the Chinese products that are out there, they make claims and they just really don't follow through on being doing what they say they're going to do. So at my company, we simply don't sell products that are made in China that don't have any of these NSF certs. So again, apply the right filter to be able to take that specific contaminant out. If you need any help, you're welcome to give us a call at Angel Water, 847-382-7800. You can log online at angelwater.com. Or of course, if you go to our website, you can always fill out a form and send us an email, and we'd be happy to respond to you with answering any questions that you have. So again, I'm Andrew Wilson with Angel Water. We're grateful that we've been able to help you with your water, and cheers to your overall health.